Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. Today I am doing something that I have never done before on the channel. Last week you saw me finish my wife's fairy wings, and a few weeks before that you saw me finish my friend's headdress, and I got to go to a Renaissance festival this past weekend. It was super fun. It's in Waxahachie. It's known as Scarborough Renaissance Festival, and it is pretty epic. Lots of people dress up. It's not as big as Texas Renaissance Festival, so it was kind of a little bit more chill. We got to see more of the shows, and it was easier to navigate stuff and not be in a crowd of people. While we were there, we saw several shows, and I thought I would share some of that with you. Now, I'm not going to give you the audio or try and expose too much because these people earn a living doing that thing. But I did want to highlight an experience that I got to partake in. As we were coming out of one of the shows, I saw a blacksmithing setup and walked up and was talking to the guys that were hammering stuff, and they asked, do you want to try it? It was an experience that they offered. You pay a small fee and they let you make a metal bracer. They walk you through the steps of treating the metal so that it heats up and tempers it so that you can hammer it and then shape it and cup it and bend it to where it fits around your arm and then rivet on some leather strapping. And I made one. I thought it was a super awesome experience. I talked my wife into recording the steps that I went through and thought I would share that with you in video form. Now, I will put links to the guy's company who does this at Scarborough Fair. He also sells on Etsy, and you can find him on Facebook too. I'll put links to his stuff down below. But without further ado, today I'm going to show you how much fun I had at the Renfair smacking a hammer up against some metal. Let's get to building. The Scarborough Renaissance Festival is in Waxahachie, Texas, and is usually open from the first weekend in April to the last weekend in May. They have various themed weekends, but all are welcome to come in whatever attire that they wish. You can see there's a Shrek on the left-hand side of the screen there. There was tons of anime characters, various armors, eras, and everything in between. My friend Ryan and I dressed up in our Viking attire, and my wife dressed in her adorable mushroom fairy costume. The wings did hold up, if you were wondering, and she was stopped quite a bit by people oohing and awing over her costume. I really loved seeing her interact with all the people and handing out trinkets to the people who stopped to chat with her. We watched some glass blowers, listened to a pretty funny poet named Arthur Greenleaf Holmes. We watched the washing well winches. We saw some sword fighting and ended the day watching Adam Crack and Jacques the Whipper do a funny whipping show where they cracked whips and lassos and threw knives and all that fun stuff. It was loads of entertainment seeing all the performers and as well as the craftsmen selling and showing their skills. The blacksmithing crew goes by the name of Hardened Metal Company and is owned by Dallas and Jessica Harden. Dallas is the guy in the white cap, and his wife is seen throughout the video in a dress in the back signing people up for the experience. The other two men in the clips are Will Curtis and William Worley. Once signed up and paid for, you hop behind the ropes and they start walking you through the process of making a bracer. Now, you can add detailed fluting and engraving for a couple of extra fees, but I just just kind of went with the basic aluminum bracer. I started by heating up the bracer blank between 570 to 770 degrees Fahrenheit, or 300 to 410 degrees Celsius for the non-American viewers out there. They marked a grid in Sharpie, and once it reached the right temperature, the Sharpie actually started disappearing from the metal. Working in a circular pattern across the grid, I vaporized the marker and then quenched it into a water bath. The next step was to dish out the top end of the bracer so that it would conform to the top of my forearm. It's hard to see at this angle, but I'm hammering my recently quenched bracer into a shot bag, also known as a panel beating bag or a leather sandbag. It's absorbing the blow of the hammer while at the same time preventing marring from the surface on that tree stump. It was fun to swing the different hammers and get a little taste of what an actual blacksmith would do. I can see how most blacksmiths have impressive forearm strength, because it is a bit taxing. There were two other guys making bracers within the clip, and we were getting passed between the three experienced workers as they explained the purpose and the technique for each stage. Thanks again to my wife Brandy for filming this adventure, and my friend Ryan for taking photos and watching me as I nerded out during some cool Renfair shenanigans. This man had a lot of confidence in my ability to swing that hammer, holding this piece and moving it as I tried to focus on one spot on that metal striking surface. They told me what everything was called, but I was so focused on the next step that I may have forgot a few things. There were several different types of anvils that were hammered on, as well as different types of hammers depending on the step we were going on. Those with a keen eye can probably inform the rest of us noobs down in the comments below as to what each of these things is called. I was mainly focused on not smashing this guy's hands as I swung down an inch or two from his knuckles. We first established the curve on the edges, and then he manually pushed the center part with just his body weight to get it closer to the contour of my forearm. There was a lot of hitting and fitting as we went. Dallas jokingly said that my forearm was more muscular than a lot of the other customers, and that was why it was hard for me to get that inward curve towards my wrist. Eventually we got it close enough, and I got to move on to the next step. Moving back to the middle of the work area, we took a metal hole punch and placed 4 holes into the aluminum, or aluminium for my British viewers. There were 2 towards the top of the bracer that would hold the forearm straps, and 2 at the bottom of the bracer for the wrist straps. For proper placement, they had a couple of examples just off to the side next to Miss Hardened there, so that the workers could quickly reference it if they needed to. Once the holes were punched and he put a leather strap with what I think was just a roofing nail snipped a bit short, we made some rivets. One of my straps might have accidentally got turned backwards, but it's kind of hardly noticeable when it's on. Once it was strapped up, it was of course time to yell "Hammer!" and cheese up for the camera. I didn't really notice it at the time, but there were a lot of people stopping to watch the process, and it was funny to think that passerbys thought that I knew what I was doing, because I did not. Thanks again to Dallas and Jessica Hardened for the epic experience with Hardened Metal Company at the Scarborough Renfair. It's not a paid promotion, it was just an experience that I got to do, and I really love sharing their company with you. This was definitely my favorite activity that I got to do while we were there. A close second would have to be eating fair food on a stick. I hope you enjoyed going on this adventure with me. This is one of the few videos on my channel where you actually see my entire body instead of just chest up. I also thought it was pretty cool to be wearing my cosplay while I did this, kind of adding to that layer of immersion while we were at the Renfair. It was cloudy for most of the day and the weather was relatively cool, so with just a little bit of a sunburn, I made it through pretty unscathed with a cool piece of armor that I handmade. If you ever get the chance to step out of your comfort zone and try something like this on an adventure, I highly suggest it. I might even take my armed bracer and add some embellishments to it before my return next year. Thanks for taking the time to watch my fun side quest, and I hope to see you next week for another epic build. And we are finished. Like I said, it was a pretty awesome, fun experience. Now, it's not perfect. It's not necessarily pretty. Not too bad for like 30 minutes to an hour worth of a newbie trying to walk through it. They did an awesome job kind of teaching me and talking about all the things and why you're doing the things you're doing. And there were mistakes made along the way that I think kind of add to the story of this piece. And I can see myself possibly modifying this and adding to it and maybe actually wearing it the next year. And I don't know, adding as part of my kit for the story that is my Viking cosplay. Yeah. Maybe you'll get some. Yay! And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these. Tell them, much props. I will say this. It was not easy getting it to fit my wrist, my forearm. But once it was on there, it was on there. And I maybe wore it for about an hour before it started to rub my wrist raw. So maybe in addition to this could be padding, because that's legit. If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and you want to see more builds like this one, please consider joining these awesome people listed here with me over on my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.